In lesson 1.2, we're going to talk about adding integers. So there's a couple rules for adding integers. Okay, if they are the same sign, so if the integers are the same sign, add and keep the sign. Okay, so if the integers are the same sign, add and keep the sign. So for example, if I do 2 plus 4, I'm going to add and get 6. Okay, 2 plus 4 is 6. Now if I do -1 plus -3, they're still the same sign. I have a negative sign and I have a negative sign. So they're the same sign, and my rule says the same side, I add and keep the sign. So I'm going to add the numbers. So 1 plus 3 is 4, but I'm going to keep the sign. Okay? So now let's go back up ahead and talk about some invisible math. Okay, these are the same sign. I didn't even talk about the same sign on 2 plus 4. But note that when a number is positive, there's like a plus sign in front of it. Okay, this is the invisible math. So I really have like plus 2 plus 4 is plus 6. But I don't put those because that's invisible math. I don't have to put those plus signs there. Okay, but when they're negative, I got to put the negative there. So -1 plus -3 is -4. So let's go up to our number line and let's work this out and see if this makes sense. Okay, if I start at 2 and I go 4 more, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to end up here at 6. Okay, because when I move to the right on a number line, the numbers get great or greater. Okay, right, great, great, right. Okay, so on the negative side, I started at -1 and I had a -3. So if I'm going negative, I'm going less, left. So right, great, less, left. Notice that right and great both have 5 letters in them. Less and left have 4 letters in them. So when it's less or negative, I'm going to move on my number line to the left. So I'm going to go left 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to end up here right here at -4. So again, the same sign, add and keep the sign. Now let's talk about different signs. If the signs are different signs, subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Okay, so different signs, subtract and keep the signs of the larger absolute value. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's do 4 plus -3. 4 plus -3. Okay, so I can see I have different signs. Remember, this is a positive number. It's that invisible math. And I have a negative number. So +4 plus -3. So different signs. So I have to find the difference. I'm going to subtract. Find the difference. So 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, I'm going to do 4 because that's my larger absolute value. And then I'm going to subtract the smaller absolute value of 3 and get 1. Then I got to go back up here and look and see what sign I'm keeping. And I keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So 4 is the larger absolute value. Because if I did this, this would be larger. Okay, that's why we did that first lesson. Okay, so 4 plus -3 is 1. So let's try this out on the number line. Okay, I'm going to start at 4, and I'm going to add a -3. And negative is less, so I know I have to go left. So I'm going to go left 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to end up with the number 1. So all of that makes sense. So now let's try Get that out of our way so that we have some room to work. So now let's try another one. Let's do -5 plus 7. Okay, this looks a little bit different. -5 plus 7. Okay, I know that I have different signs because this is really a plus sign right here. So I have a -5 and a +7. I'm going to look quickly. My +7 is a larger absolute value. I'm going to find the difference because different signs make a difference. Different signs make a difference. Okay, so remember, different signs equals find the difference, which is just another way of saying subtract. So I'm going to take 7 minus 5, and I'm going to get 2. Okay, I'm going to look at the larger absolute values. The larger absolute value here is 7, because this is just 7, and the absolute value of 5 is 5. So I'm going to keep the sign of the larger absolute value, which is positive. But again, I don't have to put that there. That's invisible math. Okay, so my answer is 2. Let's go up to the number line and see if this makes sense. Okay, I'm going to start at -5. And I'm going to go plus 7. Okay, plussing, I'm going to get greater. Greater means I'm going to move right. So I'm going to go right 7 spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I end up at 2. So -5 plus 7 is a positive 2. Let's do one more. Let's do 3 plus -8. 3 plus -8. Okay, I'm going to look at the larger absolute values. Right now, my larger absolute value is -8 because the absolute value of that is 8. Okay, they're different signs. I have a plus sign and I have a negative sign. So I'm going to do 8 minus 3, and I'm going to get 5. Okay, then I have to come back up here, remember, and look at my signs, because when they are different signs, I find the difference, which I've done, but I keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And the larger absolute value is this -8. So I'm going to keep the sign of my -8, and I'm going to get -5. So let's go up to the number line and see if this makes sense. I'm going to start at 3. Okay, and I have to go -8. So negative means less, minus means less. I'm going to get less of something, and less always means on a number line that I am moving left. So I'm going to start at 3, and I have to move left 8 units. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to end up at -5. One last thing for this part of the lesson. Thanks for hanging in with me. We're going to talk about an additive inverse. Okay, an additive inverse is really just a fancy name for the opposite. So when I say, what's the additive inverse, think, what's my opposite? Okay, so when the sum of an integer and its additive inverse it will always be 0. Okay, so if I do 5 plus -5, I'm going to get 0. Because I'm starting at 5 and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm ending at 0. Okay, -3 plus 3 is 0. -2 plus 2 is 0. 4 plus -4 is 0. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Your additive inverse is your opposite. Okay, and an integer and its additive inverse will always equal 0.